kind of chicken any way you want. But there's always one constant when it comes to the chickens, and that's South Carolina sucks! Go Vols!
How about some of these other teams out there that lose to unranked opponents all the time?
Who brings a bottle of mustard?
They've got like 105-star football players in their defense.
Hey, finger licking good.
And alright, let's switch over here and boom. Alright, oi fellow comrades, it is Squidtard here along with our two other co-hosts, Mr. Lucas Sharp and Mr. Julio Rodriguez. What's going on, fellas?
Nothing much. I thought I was late for the podcast, but we hadn't even started yet.
Oh, yeah, the party just started. It's only Sunday. October has just hit in Tennessee. Everything is still in front of them. Big whooping over the South Carolina Gamecocks last night. It was a fun day for your boy and a fun day for all the other Tennessee fans for sure. Except if you're Vols picks, he's probably he's going through deleting all of his tweets. But
one thing I want to say, the person that surprised me the most in the game, because I wanted to get it off because I've trashed him a lot before, is Kamal Hadden. He actually played a really good game.
Oh, for sure.
He was a little bit out of place on that pick six, but heck, it worked out. So
pick six is a pick six. So, all right, well, we'll have plenty of time to talk about that game. We'll have plenty of time to talk about the review of this week as well as next week. Tennessee is on a bye this week, meaning that, of course, they do not play upcoming, so we are not going to cover any games this week. However, next week we absolutely will. So we'll have plenty of time to talk about all the other games this week and last week as well. What's going on, Mr. Arter Wolf? Go Vols. You gosh darn right, go Vols. And Janine Senti, what's going on? Did you see the LSU Ole Miss game? You bet your booty cheeks I did. It was a phenomenal game. And if you're a fan of offense, you got exactly what you wanted out of that game. So, all right, well, with that being said, let's go ahead and move on. So we have plenty of topics to talk about today. Of course, the big one being Tennessee clobbers USC Junior. South Carolina goes down into Neyland Stadium under the lights, and we did exactly as we were supposed to. Got off to a very slow start, however. Joe Milton threw 2 interceptions in the game. Did not look too well, like I talked about in my halftime video. There were a lot of big mistakes that I saw out of him, but there were mistakes on a lot of key pieces. The defense, let South Carolina go for Mario Anderson go for a 75-yard touchdown. But the defense, other than that play and other than a few other mistakes on third down, were absolutely destructive last night. They forced 6 or 7 sacks on Spencer Rattler, and he was not able to get anybody open because our DBs were handling business, and we were getting a lot of that pressure on him because, their offensive line ain't no good, as we figured it out earlier. And man, oh man, was it fun to watch our defense absolutely clobber Spencer Rattler play after play after play. They had no chance in that matchup under the lights at Neyland Stadium. And of course, one of the big things to come out of that game, well, first of all, we get the 63-38 games off of our we get all of that trash talk that we had to hear. It's like a big old stone has been lifted off our backs. We don't have to hear any more of that 63-38 talk anymore. It is a irrelevant score. On top of that, everything is still in front of us, like I said at the start of the show. Of course, that one loss is detrimental, that Florida loss, and we'll get into Florida in just a little while. But, all that being said, Tennessee has everything still in front of them with only one loss on the season. We'll have to see how things play out in the future, though. We'll have plenty of time to talk about it. So, what was in your guys' mind? Whoever wants to start first can go ahead and tell me. But what was the greatest thing to come out of last night?
Well, personally, just beating South Carolina. I cannot stand Shane Beamer. To me, he has like he has the most punchable face in all of college football. It was amazing to beat them. People will say, "Oh, it was your Super Bowl." I don't care. I'm booking my flight to Disney tomorrow. I'm celebrating.
Oh yeah,
this.
we'll talk about that Super Bowl comment in a minute. Julio, and you have what was the best? What do you think was the greatest thing to come out of last night?
I was actually I think I touched on it when we first got on here because I wanted to get it off my chest. But Kamal Haddon actually playing good in the secondary.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Kamal Haddon actually, he had a very good game last night. Of course, that pick six, actually, let this be known, Spencer Rattler only threw one passing touchdown, and it was Kamal Haddon. So
Yeah, well, I mean, here's the crazy thing was I think Eric Kane predicted it. He said that Kamal Haddon was going to get a pick six as his bold prediction on his podcast.
Yeah, he did.
yeah.
And there was another thing. I was looking up Xavier Legette's stats, and he was, I think, the leading receiver in the nation coming into that game. And we.
Julio, I think you cut out.
Uh-oh.
Am I cutting out still?
Okay, now you're back.
There we go. You're good now.
But we held Xavier Legette to 50 yards, just 50 yards receiving. And it was on 5 receptions, so it was about 10 yards, but 32 of those were on that one play where he got loose.
Yeah. Also in that game, I just want to make this quick comment real quick. Our front seven played amazing, especially the defensive line. Of course, sacking, Rattler 7 times. And running backs, of course, had a phenomenal day. Dylan Sampson played good. Jalen Wright played good. Even Dylan Sampson played good. They all played really, really well. So,
I absolutely agree with that. Unrelated, real quick, you know what really pisses me off about going to the ESPN app on the computer? They have these ads that load up every time you get on one of the browsers for ESPN, and then as soon as you click on them, it doesn't even start as soon as you click on it. It waits, and then it plays the ad, and it's not muted. It plays, and it's so damn annoying because you don't know where the ad is coming from. It's like this one little box in the entire web browser. It pisses me off. All right, sorry about that. But yeah, one of the greatest things I saw out of last night was that I think at this point in the season, Josh Heupel has got a way better touch on how he wants to run this offense under Joe Milton. And we saw it last night. There was a lot more of, I guess, a different play style. I think he's worked out all of the big issues when it came to the offense and how it run. Now, we stalled out on a bunch of drives, and that was due to bad play calling. And no, actually, some of it was due to play calling, and so there's still a lot to work out with that. But a lot of it was also due to the fact that Joe Milton definitely had some drives where he was on and some where he was off. And some of the drives that he was off, it was the usual mistakes. Underthrown passes, overthrown. I talked about the interception at the start of the game that gave South Carolina the lead. Just miscues and mistakes. Kind of that same issue that we've been seeing. But I saw a lot more trick plays. Saw a lot more dump-off passes. Runs to the outside. Joe Milton was running the ball. They let Dylan Sampson run through that South Carolina D-line. Yeah, they took advantage of all of their running backs and even let Squirrel run for a few yards. So, I saw a lot more out of this team and a lot more out of this offense than I'm used to seeing, and that's a big step forward going forward. So I'm really, really happy about that.
One thing I want to touch on with the defense, the way the defense played, this is going to sound crazy, but here, I don't know if you've ever went back and watched any of the old Super Bowls, but have y'all watched the Bills and Giants Super Bowl from, I think, the early 90s when Bill Belichick was the defensive coordinator for the Giants?
No, I don't think I have.
I don't think I have either.
Okay, I didn't know if y'all had or anything like that, but I was going to say the defense kind of reminded me of that, where they knew that they couldn't stop the big pass or whatever. It's like they know they had good corners, but they know that they were going to get torched if they were going to get in a track meet with Andre Reed. So what they did was they gave them just enough space to get the 4 and 5 yard passes, and they tackled in space. And then they, whenever running and stuff like that, they would stuff the run and try to stuff the run for the most, and stuff like that. And like they would give them the run too. I mean, they practically let Thurman Thomas run all over them, but they still won the game and won the Super Bowl because they just kept on only giving up the short routes and not, because they were taking the short routes instead of taking the deep passes.
Yeah,
that's what they were giving
long routes. Yeah. All right. Well, before we get into the rest of this, I want to catch up on the comments here. What's up, Paul Warren? Great win yesterday. Absolutely agree. Maddie Sims, one of our moderators here on the Squidtard Sports channel. Tennessee is not allowed to have any fun. No alternate uniforms allowed. I'm just going to bark about it all night in the chat like I bark at young children that support other teams. Yeah, we'll get into all that in a minute. Trust me. We'll have plenty of time to talk about those guys.
You talking about Uncle Lou with the stuff with the alternate uniforms?
Oh, yeah. We'll have plenty of time to talk about that. All right, well, anyway, just kind of going to touch real quick on some of these stats that I'm seeing right here. So, Joe Milton last night, 21 of 32, 239 yards, 7.5 on average, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. So, not the best game by him, but it was a performance that was at least respectable. It was weird because, like I said, it was on and then it was off. He'd have one really good play, and then the next play, it's like full-on potato. But I will say, at the end of the game where it mattered most, Joe Milton came up strong, and we got quite a few really, really good plays going. So I was pretty happy about that. He made some slant routes, got a few first downs, and milked that clock like that Oregon State head coach did, rubbing his breastises. That was
Jonathan Smith. He was a hell of a player in the early 2000s. I mean, I wasn't really alive for it, but like I've said before, I'm kind of a historian. But he was funny enough. He was the quarterback for Oregon State when they last won the Fiesta Bowl in like 2000 or 2001, and they had 2 big receivers back then. Funny enough, those receivers ended up being teammates in the NFL. Probably older people might have heard of them. I know y'all have heard of one of them, which is Chad Johnson or Ocho Cinco. And then the other one was T.J. Hushmanzada.
Yeah, that's right. So I'll go ahead and just kind of sum up real quick just some of the stats that I saw, other than, of course, the quarterback. The rushing was really good. Jalen Wright had a bunch of carries, 123 yards rushing. And a really, really good game by him. Jabari Small and Dylan Sampson had some breakout runs. And they, like I mentioned before, they let Squirrel run the ball. But they let Squirrel do a lot last night. Had 9 receptions, 104 yards. Our only touchdown through the air came from Jacob Warren, of all people, the Mr. Tight End. But still, great performance by our receivers. However, a few drop passes. We really got to work on that. I'm not really sure how that plays out, but we got to get things under control there.
Yeah.
I got a question. Have y'all noticed something with the turf like with the field at Neyland? I mean, because I noticed with McAllen Castles on one of those plays, like he just fell down after he caught it. Like it seemed like he just lost his footing on one of those passes.
Well, he also dropped a wide open pass, so it might have just been a miscue.
Well, I mean, I don't know, but like, and then also Joe, whenever he rolled out on one pass, it's like he lost his footing and almost fell. And I was like, I don't know what the heck was going on.
Right.
Like, I don't know. I just noticed that like it was like it was like pretty like back to back of each other, like within like the couple plays I think or a couple drives, and I was like, what is going on? Why can't we like, stand up on the field?
Right.
At least it's not as bad as Eric Gray. That dude couldn't stand up for nothing half the time in the backfield.
Right. All right, now just to sum up the defense, everybody on the defense did really, really good, like I said. I think we got a total of 8 TFLs, 6 sacks, 1 interception. Just a great, great performance overall. I think almost everybody on the team had a TFL. Aaron Beasley, of course, lighting up that defensive, the defense again. Big shocker there. James Pierce Jr., I don't think we've talked about him yet, but he had a phenomenal performance. 2 sacks and 2 TFLs. Definitely the breakout player on the defense. And then even Arian Carter got himself a TFL. Just everybody on the team just had a phenomenal performance. And our special teams too. D. Williams, how about that punt? How about that punt return that we saw? That was, that would have gone for 6 had it not been for a block in the back that we committed.
Which I don't think was a block in the back in the way. I don't think it was a block in the back.
Sorry to cut you off, but usually I agree with you guys on, if there's a stupid penalty. There were a bunch of stupid penalties in the games before. The Florida game had a bunch of them. That was the right call. It was just a dumbass play. That's just what it was.
Well, yeah, I was going to say technically it was a block in the back, but most of the time they usually wouldn't call those because it was so far away from the ball it wouldn't have made any difference. It ain't like D. Williams was coming down the right sideline. He was going down the left, so I don't even know why they called it.
Right.
Because usually they would just say fuck it.
Usually that would be the case, but not all the time, and one of those times just so happened to be against us. It's usually when they spot it and they spotted it. But it shouldn't have happened anyway. I don't even know why he would have done that. The play was so far away from where D. Williams was. I don't understand why in the world that guy would do that. But we still have a lot of issues to fix, but it was a big 3-touchdown win over South Carolina, and it gets our team right back on track. For South Carolina, though, not so much.
Yeah, I was going to say this. Funny enough, I just looked at Xavier Leggett's stats again, and we were the one that held him the most in check so far this season.
Yeah, 5 catches for 50 yards.
Yeah, even better than Georgia. Georgia held him to 7 for 71.
Right.
There was some Vol fan talking about how he was going to torch us for 250 yards, but I guess that didn't happen. Of course.
Of course, that didn't happen. So yeah,
I was kind of scared. I was kind of scared of him a little bit because I was afraid maybe we might not. I figured we would get pressure, but I thought I had kind of PTSD from last year where we still got pressure and
And by the way, Tennessee, they also still lead the SEC in sacks.
Yep, that's a big thing to take away from that game. Our defense is just lighting it up right now. We'll get to see a lot more of that hopefully when old Jimbo rolls into town 2 weeks from now. We'll get plenty of time to talk about that next week. Very excited too. But yep, South Carolina win 63-38, no more. Welcome in 41-20, and good luck next year, Mr. Gamecock, man. That's all I have to say about that.
Man, imagine having 3 losses.
Yeah, that's tough. That is tough. All right, well, let's go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and take a look at these comments now, seeing what's going on. What is it with Tennessee football teams having rodents being a part of their teams? The Titans have a raccoon as their mascot, and the Vols have a guy named Squirrel as a receiver. It just so happens that is the case. Don't talk about my guy Squirrel. Don't talk down to my boy Squirrel like that, though. He's a beast.
Oh, and my profile picture for tonight is also a rodent. So
yeah, ain't that funny? All right, well, yeah. Paul Warren says I think the South Carolina fans disappeared. Yeah, for sure. One other thing I need to touch on before we move on here is of course. Well, 2 things actually. One, we had a very, very unfortunate injury last night. Mr. Brew McCoy, one of the toughest wide receivers, one of the toughest players I've seen at Tennessee, it's one of those injuries that you never want to see again. It was like his foot kind of went in a direction it wasn't supposed to, parallel to where he was standing. It was just a terrible injury. He goes down. But the good news is he went through surgery, and it looks like that he will be okay at least, and that's very important. College football, of course, we all love to talk about our team and trash talk and all of that, but injuries are one of the worst things about the sport, and having to deal with that is something I couldn't even imagine, especially since his family was there. So prayers go out to Brew McCoy and his family. I hope he's fully recovered in no time.
Yeah, it's gonna suck. I feel bad for him, and prayers out to his family. And it's definitely gonna be hard the rest of the season without him playing receiver for us. Hopefully we can get him back next year, because I think he still has 1 year left of eligibility after this season.
I think he does, actually, because I was trying to look that up because I was thinking about that, and I was like, I think he might have it. I don't even think he would even need a medical red shirt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, yeah, like I said, prayers go out to our boy Brew McCoy. Mr. Brew. That was pretty cool, though, when he was being carted off the field, and the entire stadium was just brew. You could hear the brews all around.
All I got to say is whoever the next guy is, next man up. I don't know who he is, but next man up.
I'm thinking it's going to be Chaz Nimrod.
Yeah, but I think Nimrod was in there after that.
Yeah, and he dropped a pass right in his hands.
Right, he'll figure it out. All
well,
right.
I mean, I can forgive that because he's a freshman, but the other ones that are juniors and seniors, why the hell are you dropping passes?
Exactly. Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. All right, well, just going back to the comments real quick, I want to read some of these. Let's see. So Janine has asked multiple times if she can be a mod. Well, the thing is about that is I am very few and far between with the mods. We had an incident at one point where one of the mods went rogue and just started timing people out. I can't risk that, so I only do a very, very short amount of people as moderators. So as it stands right now, I don't plan to make anybody else a moderator, but maybe in the future I shall consider it. Vols for Life 16 says, Milton is an average quarterback, unfortunately. We have to rely on the run game, and we can accomplish a lot. Well, while I do think a lot can be accomplished with the run game, we can't heavily rely on that. If a team, focuses directly on the run, kind of like what Kentucky did against Florida, and you don't have a quarterback that's able to readjust and, make passes, then that could be a very big problem. So yeah, that can't be our. I mean, of course, having a really good run game is nice and definitely helps out with the playbook, but that can't be it. That can't be the whole story. So.
Well, I'd predicted before the season in one of my spaces that I feel like our best game is going to be against Kentucky, because we almost always seem to play our best game against them.
Yeah, we'll see about that. Wait, Tennessee has a receiver named Nimrod. Don't let the Georgia fans know about that one. Unfortunately, they probably will, and then they'll run with it.
Yeah, I know when Nimrod committed to Tennessee, I was like, great. Of course we get a guy named Nimrod.
They're too scared to talk about the current state of affairs at Georgia. They're only talking about, well, look at our back-to-back national championships. We got 2 natties in the last 2 years. Well, Mickey Mouse does have 2 big old mouse ears, so I guess, run along with that one for a while. All right, well, before we move on to the next topic, make sure you guys watching the Volstar podcast, if you haven't already, give this a like and sub up to Squidtard Sports if you haven't already. We do this show every Sunday at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Usually around an hour is the full run time, but we may go longer than that today since we are talking about both last week and this upcoming week. We'll have plenty of time to talk about all of that since Tennessee is not playing. So, yeah, just give this a like and sub up to Squidtard Sports. And go check out Mr. Lucas Sharp and Julio Rodriguez over on their Twitter accounts. They do a lot of trash talking and other stuff. I know Julio has his Twitter spaces every so often. Go on ahead and check those out when you can. All right, well, with all that being said, let's go ahead and roll into... I want to go ahead now that we've covered all of the stuff with the Tennessee game, kind of talked about all the end results. You guys, looking back at last week, was there any results? Of course, there's a lot of results that shocked a lot of people. But was there any? What do you think was the most shocking result from this last week of college football?
Wait, from this Saturday?
Yeah, this Saturday.
Probably maybe Ole Miss over LSU. Also, there was another result that was possibly shocking. Baylor beating UCF, where UCF was up 35-3.
Oh yeah, no, I think it was 35-7 late in the third quarter.
Oh yeah, 35-7.
And then Baylor just suddenly went off and just crawled their way all the way back into the game and won it, which was crazy.
How do you blow the game that bad? All you just have to do is run the ball and run the clock out. That's
you have to think about you got to think about who their head coach is, though.
Yeah, Gus Malzahn.
Good old Gus Malzahn.
At that point, you gotta play conservative and just run the clock out.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, Gus always does weird stuff like that, but then he'll turn around and he'll beat a team he has no business in hell beating. Like, I don't know what it is. He's such an enigma. It's crazy.
Well, you telling me that UCF and Gus Malzahn blew a lead, it would be like telling me that Les Miles doesn't know what clock management is. It's something that everyone knows. It's like saying the sky is blue. Like everyone knows that. But sometimes, some people are about to tell me sometimes the sky is orange. So let's go ahead and move on.
I know some people would say, like the Colorado result would be shocking, like in the sense of like it being that close. But I'm actually not really that surprised because I always know Lincoln Riley's defense is fucking piss poor. Like
they've got some serious issues on defense, man. I don't understand why they continue to have this problem.
Yeah, defense just does not exist in Alex Riley's world.
Or
Lincoln Riley's world.
Yeah, you
Alex
meant to say
Grinch,
Alex
yeah.
Grinch. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't hear the only person that bothers to show up on that defense is Bear Alexander. And here's the thing,
and he won't even show up at all. You can't find him anywhere.
But that's the thing but here's the other thing is that he'll show up, but he'll dominate one game and then he'll disappear. It's like, what?
Right, there's some serious play calling issues with USC right now.
Yeah. You know what? USC and Iowa are basically, in a way, the same because USC, of course, has an amazing offense, a terrible defense. Iowa has an amazing defense and a terrible offense.
Yeah,
Could you imagine if Iowa found a way to get a good offense and USC found a way to get a good defense?
I'm guessing you're thinking about merging USC's defense and Iowa's offense. Yeah, that already exists. That already exists. They call that UMass.
No, I meant like USC's offense and then Iowa's defense combines. That I feel like that team would be nearly unstoppable.
Oh, that would playoff team right there. But unfortunately, that's just not how it works. I don't really understand what value Alex Grinch has at USC. I don't understand the value. Is it like a friendship thing, kind of like what Dabo had with a lot of his coordinators, or is there a blackmail thing going on? I don't understand what type of value Alex Grinch has, because after the if this were Saban last year, if this were Alex Grinch under Nick Saban's defense, he would have been fired last year. We've been talking about a brand new coordinator now. We wouldn't be talking about this. So the fact that it's just continuing on and on, it definitely makes me think that USC is far from a contender for not just the playoffs, but the Pac-12 itself. Because Washington, Oregon, and even Washington State and Oregon State, they all look like, much more well-balanced teams. And you aren't beating these top-tier Pac-12 teams with a stinky doo-doo defense. You're just not.
Yeah, you're just not. Speaking of which, Washington, they somewhat almost lost to Arizona. They only won by a touchdown.
Too, yeah. Because Washington was probably my favorite for at least at this point in time, not anymore. But Washington before that Arizona game was, in my mind, the best team in the Pac-12. I think that belongs to the Ducks now. They destroyed Stanford.
Yeah, Oregon looks really good.
I'm gonna say this, but The Arizona game is kind of deceiving if you watch the game. They were practically up by like 2 scores the entire game for the most part. And then, they scored at the end and it was like a 1-score game. It's kind of like the Florida game for us last year.
Mm-hmm. I hear you on that.
That's what I would consider that game. Right. It's just one of those where, it's like they kind of dominated the box score. If you look at the box score and you look at the score, you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, no kidding. I hear you on that. Well, yeah, no, Oregon definitely looks like the most dominant force in the Pac-12. We got to talk about this one. Auburn and Georgia. Friggin' Georgia in Jordan-Hare struggles again for the umpteenth time in a row and wounds up a winner by riding the struggle bus throughout the entire game. It's just, yeah. And then, of course, the usual thing is now with Georgia and their offense is to just, it's Brock Bowers or nothing. And Brock Bowers is a generational talent. There's nothing I can take away from Brock Bowers. He is elite. The best tight end I've seen in a very, very long time. The best player I've seen in a very, very long time. But Georgia is so heavily reliant on him that if Brock Bowers has a bad game, no matter who it's against, it could be Vandy for all I care, they're losing. Like, it's that bad. They can't rely on Brock Bowers in every single game, especially once they have to play some tougher teams down the stretch. And, well, luckily for them, it doesn't look like they have much of that to worry about. But the moment they get into postseason, watch out.
Yeah. But here's the other thing. It's like, I know Brock Bowers has actually had some nagging injury problems. I know he had some, what was it, last year, I think?
Mm-hmm.
Because you saw what happened last year. I know they ended up winning the national championship last year, but you know what ended up happening, with the Kent State game and stuff like that, where he kind of got injured there for like a quarter, and then like they just kind of fell apart on offense.
Right.
And it's like, I don't know, like, it was so weird.
Well, another thing is, so I did my top 25 today. I'm going to show the full top 25 at the end of the show. But right now, of course, shockingly enough, Georgia's still number 1. But in my top 25, I moved them down from number 2, which Texas was ranked ahead of them. I moved them down to number 4. I think Michigan and Penn State have both had better performances over the course of the season than Georgia has. And, of course, Georgia fans were all up in my mentions with the and complaining about it. And the best excuse I've heard for, that is, well, Georgia should be ranked number 1 because we won 22 games in a row. Okay, great. 15 of those, no, way more than 15 of those were last year and the year before that. Nobody's talking about that. I guess, should we rank TCU because they won a bunch of games last year? No. Yeah. No, that's not how it works. Georgia's 5-0. That's great. But every team you've played is a team without a pulse, and you've rode the struggle bus for 1, 2, and maybe even 3 quarters in a game. You can't do that and expect to just sit there and be number 1 all the time. It just doesn't work like that.
Georgia still might be number 1 in the AP poll, but one thing I noticed from last week's AP poll to this week's is Georgia, they lost a lot of first place votes, if you didn't notice. They lost a lot.
As it should be.
Yeah, if they keep performing like this, they're not going to be number 1 any longer. They're not.
And Texas, the thing is about Texas, and this mainly leans towards Texas. Penn State and Michigan, not so much. I mean, Penn State does have the win over Iowa, and then as we saw in Michigan, they just absolutely dominated Nebraska and Lincoln. Texas has that signature win over Alabama on the road, as well as showing up and playing a full 4 quarters of games throughout the entirety of the season. They have played complete and strong and not had any issues.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen that out of Georgia, so there's some real issues that are going on with Georgia right now.
Yeah, it's... Oh, go on, Julio.
I was going to say, I mean, Texas has practically played good, except for I think they had like a quarter there against Wyoming in like the first. They played kind of shit. But that was also, I think, right after the Alabama game, so I'll cut them some slack. It's a big win, so.
Yeah. And also, I have this to play for Auburn, if you don't mind. It's this. You blew
That is definitely true. They blew it hard. There were a lot of teams that blew it last night. Duke was another one. They were up on Notre Dame for the entirety of the game, all the way up to the fourth quarter. On that last drive, Notre Dame goes all the way down the field. Sam Hartman, on 4th and a mile, makes one of the most miraculous first down plays I've seen in a very long time, and extends the drive, and then completes it with a touchdown. And Duke, of course, wasn't able to get down the field quick enough, and Notre Dame goes out a winner.
If only he could have did that shit against Ohio State.
Right.
So,
But yeah, RIP to America's team, Duke, man.
well, the worst part about that loss wasn't the fact that they lost, because they still have a lot of games ahead of them. And Duke, remember, beat Clemson earlier in the season. So, right as it stands right now, everything is still ahead of them. They have a chance to still make the ACC championship. In fact, if they win most of the rest of their games, they're going to make the ACC championship. But, big problem, our good boy Riley Leonard went down. And that is a very, very tough loss for Duke. He was a huge part of that offense, and he went down with a really bad injury. I don't know if it's a season-ending injury or not. I don't think it's a season-ending one, but he will be out for some of the foreseeable games.
But yeah, man. Hopefully Riley Leonard comes back, because I already basically jumped on the Duke bandwagon already. So
it was a high ankle sprain, which likely means he's going to be out at least next week. I would say that he doesn't play. They play NC State next week, and I think Duke should be able to win that one, but they absolutely need him back after that week, because the next game on their schedule, they got to travel to Tallahassee to play Florida State.
Yeah. Funny enough, I was looking at North Carolina's schedule. They got a really good slate for the back half. They got Syracuse at home, and then Miami at home, and Virginia at home. They got those the next 3.
Yeah.
yeah, North Carolina's schedule looks really favorable throughout the rest of the season.
And then, of course, Notre Dame's still fighting to try and make the playoffs, but they've got some tough competition ahead. Louisville, who's still undefeated, is their next opponent, and they play them on the road as well. And they still got to play USC at home and Clemson on the road. So
yeah, UNC also plays at Georgia Tech, which I know Georgia Tech is not really good. But one thing I will say about Brent Key, he usually gets them up for most of those bigger games.
I mean,
and they usually play pretty well against better teams.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it is. So I think they lost last year.
They beat UNC last year.
Right.
So I definitely think it'll be a revenge game for them. So, and then they have Campbell at home, and then they have Duke at home, and then they end the year off at Clemson.
Oh yeah, it'll be fun watching those games go down. So another one that I think really caught a lot of people's eye, it caught everybody's eye during the nighttime slate. What in the world happened with LSU and Ole Miss? That was a insane game. Over 1,200 total yards of offense. Ole Miss had 700 yards. Just an outright dominant performance offensively by both teams. And, well, mainly more of a defensive clinic, but still a very fun matchup to watch. And then, of course, in true Brian Kelly fashion, he finds a way to screw it up at the end. Ole Miss goes all the way down the field, scores a touchdown, and then LSU does not have, I guess they just did not have the weapons to respond on that last drive. They ended up losing to Ole Miss on the road. The toughest part about that for LSU is the fact that that's their second loss, and they've been eliminated from playoff contention likely with that loss.
Oh, well, all I got to say is you hate to see it.
Really? Because I was rooting for LSU, and I root for everybody when they play Lane friggin' Kiffin, but you win some, you lose some. But we did get some major catharsis last night as Tennessee fans, as a few of our own fans dressed up as Ole Miss fans and threw bottles on the field, as we know. Because, only Tennessee does that. Nobody else has ever done that.
I'm still waiting for somebody to write an article on how trashy Ole Miss fans are.
Yeah, I know. Where's that at?
Well, hey, at least it's not Europe. They throw like fucking grenades on the field during European football matches.
Well, if Ole Miss is losing again, we gotta watch for that. Yeah, Oklahoma won big over Iowa State, 50-20, and game day's traveling to the Red Rivalry as the Oklahoma and Texas play each other this upcoming week, and that is going to be a phenomenal game. I'm very excited for that.
Yeah, definitely a huge game for both teams. And actually, if Texas wins this game, I really like their chances to go undefeated because, I mean, literally, after the Oklahoma game, they basically play nobody except for Kansas State.
Oh, yeah.
And Kansas State lost to Missouri, for crying out loud. So, if Texas wins this game this Saturday, I'd really like their chances to go undefeated.
Yeah. I'd have to agree with that. All right, well, we also had some major upsets, of course. This actually wasn't an upset, though. This was actually, I mean, Kentucky was favored to win this game, so this shouldn't be a shocker. But it is still a shocker because not because Florida lost, but because of the way they went out. Florida lost to Kentucky, 33-14, the final score. The game was over from the moment they said start. The moment the ball was kicked off, the game was over. Kentucky just absolutely just massacred Florida. Florida, unlike what they did against Tennessee, looking at you, Joey Hazel, our offensive coordinator, they could not stop the run against Kentucky. Ray Davis was just burning through that Florida defensive line, had 280 rushing yards. Florida just could not answer the run, and Kentucky took full advantage of it, and they just continued to massacre Florida through the run. And then Florida couldn't get anything going on offense. They had a couple of big drives going for them, but they'd stall out and wouldn't be able to capitalize on them. Kentucky, on the other hand, did just that, so they won big over the Gators. And it's always fun to watch Florida lose, but it also makes us, Tennessee, look worse because, well, they beat us. You see what I'm getting at?
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing now. I think it's safe to say now that Kentucky practically owns Florida at this point.
At
least for the past couple of years. I mean, it's kind of getting up there now. It's like, damn.
Right. The good news is, if you're Billy Napier and this coaching staff, is that the Tennessee game bought you some leverage because people are already, after the Utah game, ready to say, bye-bye, Billy, Sunbelt Billy, good sir. The clown show as from Lucas's phone a couple of weeks ago. that stupid clown
what if Heupel pulled a 4D chess move and lost purposely so that Billy would stay there longer?
That's what they're saying now. Is that Heupel hid our offense intentionally, so now people think that Tennessee ain't no good, and then they just suddenly turn good. So hopefully that's what happens.
Watch us blow out Florida next year, and everybody's just like the 2023 team walked, so Billy Napier could come out and just lose to Tennessee in blowout fashion.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. I said I would never predict us to win against Florida on the road. But I didn't say anything about Neyland because Heupel actually plays really good at Neyland.
Yeah, he's won this Saturday. It makes it 12 straight home victories for Tennessee.
Yeah, the crazy thing is, I think he's lost 3 games.
Yep.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think 2 of those are to Georgia, and then the other one is to Pitt.
Wait, you're talking about our home games?
Yeah.
No,
we lost
to Georgia, Ole Miss, and Pitt. Those are our 3 home losses.
Okay. Yeah. Oh wait. Yeah. So 3 home losses. Okay. So it's
Georgia.
Yeah, I forgot. It's not been 4 years yet. So.
Yeah. This is year 3.
Yeah. So it'll be. So Georgia, Ole Miss, Pitt 3. Crazy thing is, Heupel's almost got only got 1 more home loss than Billy Napier's got away wins.
Oh my gosh! Yeah. To put that into perspective, okay, out of the last 17 road games for Florida, they have only won 1.
2.
2? No.
Yeah, they won against South Florida on the road.
No, that was a home game.
At least.
Oh yeah, it was a home game.
Yeah, no, you're thinking of Alabama. Yeah, you're thinking of Alabama. Yeah, no, they're thinking of that offensive clinic they had against South Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, wrong thing right there. This shouldn't come as a shocker to anybody, but Mizzou beat Vandy, and well, this wouldn't be, nobody would be really talking about this, and nobody should be talking about this. But the only reason that we are talking about this, hold on a second, I've got some to let everyone know about. Oh yes, here it is. Yeah.
Vandy is gonna be at least 6-1.
Yeah. Let's run it back. Let's run it back. Did y'all hear that? Yeah.
I think so.
Let's run that back real quick. I want everyone on the show to hear this again. Our good boy Jared, the Vandy fan.
Vandy is gonna be at least 6-1.
I think I could be wrong, but did he say Vandy?
Vandy is gonna be at least 6-1. That was an official quote that he said calling into one of the shows that I was watching. Vandy is gonna be at least 6-1 heading into the Georgia game.
And what are they now, like 2-4?
2-4. Just lost their 4th game in a row. Wake Forest, UNLV, Kentucky, Mizzou. And who do they play next week? Florida on the road.
I just looked it up. I was right. They've won 2 games on the road, and that being at South Florida in 2021, Napier's first year, where they barely won, and then beating Texas A&M then beating Texas A&M on the road.
I didn't think they played South Florida on the road, and I doubt anybody else knew that either, unless they actually had the stat pulled up. What is there some type of money deal that you get by playing them on the road? I don't get that.
I don't know. Usually, I mean, I don't know. I know pretty much every single year it seems like Virginia Tech plays Old Dominion on the road.
Right.
Yeah, but but here's the thing. That's kind of like, in-state thing too. So
yeah, ain't Virginia Tech and Old Dominion? Ain't that a rivalry? I could be wrong.
I think it might have been an older.
It
might have been an older rivalry, but I don't know how old Old Dominion's football team is off the top of my head. The only thing I know is that the only big player to come out of Old Dominion was Taylor Heineke.
Oh yeah,
right.
The GOAT Taylor Heineke.
We've been extending this for a little too long, so I'll just try and narrow the rest of these down as quick as possible. There weren't many other big results. I mean, Clemson beat Syracuse 31-14. Virginia still cannot find a win. Boston College beat them 27-24. Poor Virginia, man. Now they're sitting there at 0-5. It's not looking good for your boys over at Virginia. And then, you got some other games here. West Virginia is one of the big shockers here. 24-21, they beat TCU on the road. West Virginia might be the real deal this season. I don't know. And
their head coach basically saved his job.
Yeah, then Pitt is miserable. They lost 38-21 against Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure West Virginia's coach, they were planning on firing him at the end of the season, but right now it looks like I guess he ain't going to get fired.
Yeah, right now I think that's a story for another time. And then the story I thought was going to be for another time, which was Georgia Tech may actually be decent, turned out to be a story that no longer exists because Georgia Tech got blown out by Bowling Green. And boy, the Georgia Tech fans are in pain. I don't know if you guys saw Sea Dog's post game. I've as a Tennessee fan, and as long as I've been a fan for, I know what the face of pain and defeat looks like. I've seen the face of I've seen many faces: rage, frustration. I'm about to break something, all that. But I've never. I know what the face of just pure defeat looks like, and that was what I saw. It's just I'm done. The season's a wash.
Yeah.
Everything's pain, and that's what I saw from your boy Sea Dog.
He didn't even really look that mad. He honestly looked madder from the Northern Illinois loss.
Oh yeah.
One other surprising thing was Georgia State getting stomped by Troy. No, not Georgia Southern. Georgia. Did I say Georgia Southern? Georgia State.
No, you did say Georgia State.
Okay. Yeah, they got stomped like 28-7. Troy beat them 28-7.
Also, Julio, unrelated. Actually, this is related. It is a crime to mention that team on the show. Yeah, you are not allowed to do that.
Oh, I didn't know. Are we banned from saying their name?
Yeah, you are not. That is a crime.
Yeah, if you want to mention that team, you have to say the team that shall not be named.
Yeah. All right. Well, that wraps up all of the talk about Week 5. A lot of big results and a lot of switch ups in the top 25 that I'll show at the end of this show. But yeah. All right. Let's move on. Right before that, though, I want to see what this comment section is doing. What's up, Bet? Good to see you here. Yes, sir. That is the name of that's his username. Hey, Squidtard. What's up? Yes, sir. Did you guys see Brew McCoy's knee? The injury. We saw it. It was bad, and I don't want to get another look at that. Okay, so now that we've talked about that, we talked about last week. We're just going to quickly go through some of these Week 6 games. Talk about how interesting they are. We mentioned the Texas and Oklahoma. That's a big matchup right there. I think this is the Big 12 championship without the championship word. This is a phenomenal. Right now, these two teams stand at the very tip top of the Big 12 by a very significant margin. Nobody comes close between Oklahoma and Texas. So who do y'all have winning that game?
For me, this will definitely be a really good game. Of course, last year Texas blew out Oklahoma. It wasn't even close. I think this year is going to be very different. Oklahoma, they're definitely a better team, especially defensively, is what I've saw. But yeah, I still think Texas will find a way to win. I think Texas, to me, they might be the most complete team in the entire country, and I'm being dead serious. They look really, really good, both offensively and defensively. So,
yes, that's what I was gonna touch on. Was I think either them or Michigan, except for I think Michigan's offense kind of sputtered a little bit at the start of the year, but I think that also is because Harbaugh's been out. So,
yeah, but it seems like their offense is starting to get it going. Michigan's.
Yeah. So, and like I said, that was the other thing I was gonna mention. Their offense seems, starting clicking finally. So. Looking good for them right now, but I think them or Michigan are probably the most complete. And I would say maybe Penn State, but they haven't really played, like anyone good. And I know what someone's going to say, like, oh, Iowa's a good team, but here's the thing: Iowa's offense is always ass. They run a Stone Age offense. Like they might as well be out there, beating rocks against each other.
Hey, they won. They won
Stone Age
this
offense.
Week. Yeah, they won this week though against Michigan State. But then again, Michigan State is they got their own problems. Tuck's doing something there. Yeah, like I mentioned last week, Tuck's coming in all the wrong ways. Yeah. All right. Well, moving on from that, let's talk about the next game here. So Maryland versus Ohio State, and I feel like the only reason why we're talking about this one is because Maryland is still undefeated.
And somehow, how is Maryland not ranked? I feel like if you're undefeated at this point of the season, you have to be ranked.
Well, okay. Well, here's who they've played: Towson, Charlotte, Virginia, at Michigan State, and Indiana. Now they won all of those games. All convincingly. They haven't had a struggle win since the season began, which give them credit to that. But I think, the way things look for Maryland, I think they deserve to be ranked. I think you're right, but they aren't really. I mean, they haven't really played anybody with a pulse yet. I think.
I was gonna say. I was gonna say you could maybe argue slotting them in at 25.
Yeah. The thing that bothers me about that is that's the reason why Fresno State's ranked is because they're undefeated. I would much rather have a Maryland be ranked than a Fresno State. If those two teams played right now, I think Maryland would win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, though, the Ohio State game, I'm guessing you guys are riding with the Buckeyes on this one.
Yeah, I'm riding with Ohio State.
Right, that seems to be the result that a lot of people think. Julio, you agree?
Sorry. thing going off again. I don't know what's happening. Because whenever I go to like look on the ESPN app or whatever, my mic cuts off. I don't know why.
Oh,
But,
that sounds about right.
Yeah, I think that Ohio State wins that.
All right. Well, another one here. This is in the noon slate as well, ESPN. I did not think this was going to be as nearly of intensive a matchup as it is now. Number 23 LSU on the road, traveling to number 21 Missouri. That's going to be a fun game, I think. I think a lot of people need to watch that, how that plays out. Because Missouri undefeated, LSU with 2 losses. Nobody knows how that's going to play out. I'm looking forward to the results of that one.
Who would have thought Missouri would be higher ranked than them at that start of the season?
And even with 2 losses, LSU's rolling into Columbia, Missouri as a 6.5 point favorite.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it should be smaller than that. I mean, maybe they'll prove me wrong and they'll have a bounce back win. But Como's a weird place to play. If you don't have your A game, you can easily lose there.
Yeah, Georgia almost lost there. So
right.
I mean that's what I'm using as. The only thing is, I don't know what it is. Heupel, the only place he doesn't really struggle on the road at is Missouri. That's about the only place he doesn't struggle to play on the road at so far.
Yeah, thankfully. So yeah, I think. Who are y'all taking to win?
God, that's hard.
It's a tough one. Yeah, no, it's. But luckily we aren't betting on this, so.
You know what?
Yeah.
You know what? Give me the upset. Give me Mizzou.
Yeah, I was gonna. God. Yeah, give me the upset. I'll take an upset.
All right. Well, there you have it. I will. I don't know. I think the Tigers will win, but who knows? We'll see.
The Tigers will win. Bold prediction.
Yeah, that's the bold prediction. Yeah, that's what I think's gonna happen. All right. Gotta talk about this one too. I think this is gonna be a really fun matchup here. Number 13, Washington State, currently still undefeated, traveling into Pasadena, the old Rose Bowl, to play UCLA. UCLA is actually the favorite in this game. They're 3.5 point favorites. Y'all think UCLA will defend their home turf with about 3.5 people in it?
That's kind of hard. I really want Washington State to just pull a Chad move and win the Pac-12 in its last year of existence.
Yeah.
Well,
just because I want to watch the.
Yeah.
Just because I want to watch the world burn. But,
I do. I'm rooting for UCLA and Washington. Or I'm rooting for Oregon State and Washington State to roll their way into the Pac-12 championship.
Yeah.
Yeah. So who do you have winning though?
I'll probably take Chip Kelly right now. Like maybe they'll prove me wrong because I know Washington State has played Oregon State, but I think that was at home, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, that's at home, and I know they played Wisconsin, but Wisconsin's kind of meh at the moment, so.
Yeah.
So I guess I'll take the more experienced Chip Kelly for that, but I still think Washington State's a good team, though. No shame in losing to Chip Kelly.
Yeah.
Not much, yeah, you're right.
All right. For me, well, to be honest with you, I'd love to see Washington State versus Oregon State in the Pac-12 championship. To be honest with you, those two teams already played. So Washington State, they already won the Pac-2 championship. But I think since you're going with UCLA, I'm going to go with Washington State. So at least one of us will be right.
All right. We are running really short on time for this show, so I'm going to try and I'll let you guys do it. Is there any other games you guys want to cover before we wrap this thing up?
Let me see.
Let's see.
Because I was thinking, of course, we got to talk about this one. Undefeated Kentucky traveling on the road to play number 1 Georgia. With Georgia playing as sloppy as they are right now, and Kentucky, being really high after the win over Florida, there's a big plot line there whether or not Kentucky can actually go on the road and win. Y'all think Georgia will show up for this one?
Georgia's actually a 15-point favorite.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. They keep on giving Georgia, like, these 14, 15-point lines, and then Georgia shits the fucking bed.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna take Georgia to win, but if I was a betting man, I'd honestly take Kentucky
And
against the spread.
yeah, I could see
Yeah.
why.
Yeah, until Georgia proves to me they can actually cover a spread that's not against a bum team or FCS team, then
Right.
I'll take Kentucky to cover too.
Give me the Mouses of Mickey to win in the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. All right.
Yeah.
There's
What about
also
Alabama A&M?
That's a good one. Yeah, Alabama versus A&M. That one. Let's see. So yeah, that's a 3:30 kickoff, correct?
Yeah, it's on CBS.
Gotcha. And Alabama's rolling in 3.5 point favorite.
We know how Alabama and Nick Saban play in College Station. They play like shit almost every time.
Oh yeah, and yeah, no, these two teams share the exact same record. And A&M, I mean, they're both coming off wins, conference wins. This is going to be a great matchup, I think.
Yeah, kind of crazy that Alabama's fighting to keep their playoff chances alive at this point in the season.
Right, exactly. We're not used to seeing that, but here they are.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Who y'all riding with in this one?
God, that's hard. I'm going to take Alabama mostly just because I just want Tennessee to crush their playoff hopes.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna take A&M because it's on the road at College Station, and I think A&M, I think they're a better team this year than they were last year, and they almost beat Alabama last year. So yeah.
Well,
I'm gonna take A&M.
Another reason I'm not taking them is because Connor Wegman's injured.
That is a big loss, yeah.
And I know, like, some people are going to say, well, Max Johnson's still a good quarterback. I mean, he's a good quarterback, but, I mean, he's the backup for a reason.
Yeah, well, Jalen Milroe played last year against Texas A&M and laid out a big doo-doo stinky, and now they got to play in Kyle Field for this one. And even with that, without A&M's quarterback, I picked A&M in the offseason. I got to ride with my pick'em here. Give me A&M to drop Alabama. That's going to be
I also wouldn't be shocked if that happens, but
right.
Like I said, I just want to see the agony on the Gum's face after we shatter their playoff hopes in Tuscaloosa.
Correct. All right, last one before we wrap things up here. I wanted to give this one a talk here. Notre Dame, number 10 in the nation, going up against number 25 Louisville. We spoke a little bit about this one earlier in the show, but I want to kind of give a little bit of a deeper dive. Louisville undefeated. Sam Hartman had a great performance against Duke. Now he's traveling on the road to play another ACC team. This should be a good one, I think, y'all. Notre Dame is coming in as 6.5 point favorites. You think Notre Dame will come lights out, or do you think they'll have their usual Notre Dame syndrome?
I think that Notre Dame will probably win because I don't know if Jeff Brom can keep up like the crazy momentum he has right now, like year one. But I do think that Louisville will cover, and I think it'll be like a 3-point game.
All right.
For me, this is obviously going to be a good. I think it's going to be a good game, but I do think Notre Dame. To me, I think they're just the better team. I think Notre Dame will win this game, and not just win, but I also think they'll cover.
Yeah, that seems to be the right case of words there. I'm taking Notre Dame there. 6.5 is a weird spread because if they win by a touchdown, they cover. So, if you're a betting man, I'd stay far, far away from that game. But yeah, I'd take Notre Dame to win. All right.
Yeah, I mean, I was just saying if I had to take it or whatever, I definitely is not a betting person, so I wouldn't touch that in real life.
No kidding. Yeah, I hear you on that. Well, before we wrap up things over here on the show, let's go ahead and because I want to do this before we end the show tonight. I want to because I talked about my top 25 earlier, and I wanted you guys to take a look at it. The top 25 I have. So let me go ahead and pull this up when I can. Oops. All right. I'm gonna switch over here. I'm gonna switch screens so that you guys can see my screen. There we go. All right. Again, I'm doing this on 2 different screens, so I'm having a hard time managing that. I'm a professional streamer, as you guys know. No, there we go. Okay. So this is my Week 6 top 25. I mentioned that I had Texas at number 1, and I moved Georgia down to number 4. You guys already knew that. I got Michigan, Penn State, and Florida State, the other 3 teams in the top 5. Ohio State at 6. I moved Oregon up from 9 to 7. Washington at 8, Notre Dame at 9, Oklahoma moving up 5 spots. I think they are really, really good this season. Alabama sitting at 11, Wazoo at 12. I moved USC down to 13 after their defensive clinic against Colorado. 14, Oregon State. 15, North Carolina. 16, Ole Miss. Duke, Miami, Tennessee up to 19, Louisville at 20, LSU 21, Maryland 22, Kentucky 23, Utah number 24, and Missouri for the first time in a while. I think this is the first time this year I've put them in my top 25. I've got Mizzou sitting right there at number 25. So what do you guys think, Lucas and Julio? Y'all think this is the right call? Most of these teams?
Yeah, the only one I think I might disagree on might be like ranking Kentucky a little bit higher, which I don't think either of them will matter because I think they'll both lose next week. But, can switch in like Kentucky and Maryland. But other than that, I think it's a pretty solid list.
Lucas, your take?
Yeah, I think this is a pretty good top 25. I think I actually agree with most of everything on this. Yeah.
I might put Oklahoma a little bit lower because I don't know if they're a top 10 team. I still would probably put USC in the top 10. I know like their offense is ass, but until they lose, I would probably still keep them at least in the top 10. And also maybe Louisville. I think Louisville might be a little bit down on the list too, but maybe that's also like not a bad place.
Well, winning is of course one thing, but I also base it a lot on their performance and how close, because I also base it on spreads, and USC had a huge spread against Colorado, and they let what happened to them happen, and they've been doing that all season long. So until they prove to me otherwise, right now they're sticking around outside of the top 10 because right now they do not look like they're a top 10 team.
Yeah, I can roll with that argument if that's what you're going to base it on.
They have the best offense in the nation. It's just, you can only do so much with it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, heck, Caleb Williams is technically having a better year than what he did last year, like up to right now. But the thing is that the defense is still ass. Like,
correct. All right, guys. Well, I think we can go ahead and wrap up this show. Yes, sir. Asked lol. How is Georgia number 1 still? AP. You couldn't. You'd have to sit me down and explain it to me like I am like 2 years old and explain to me how Georgia is still number 1. I don't think anybody understands that.
Yeah. Honestly, Texas or Michigan. But I'd honestly put either Texas or Michigan at number 1. If you put Texas at 1 or you put Michigan at 1, I wouldn't argue with you one bit.
Texas mainly because they've shown up for all of their games. And while Michigan, I definitely think, had a very dominant performance, they've had a couple of weeks where they've been like really sloppy. So we don't know the true story about Michigan just yet, but we'll find out very shortly.
I'm gonna say this. I kind of hope they kind of keep Georgia at number 1 because I feel like usually whenever after Georgia gets bumped from the 1 standing or whatever, that's whenever they usually wake up. So hopefully they keep them at number 1 and it keep the dogs asleep.
Right.
What if they come into number 1 and kneeling and then we just beat them?
Yeah. Well, that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother day. We've got plenty of time to wait till that one, and we still got plenty of other teams to play along the way. So we'll find out as we go down the line. But yeah, before we wrap up the show, if you guys haven't already, make sure to drop a like on this video. Every single like helps. And make sure to subscribe to Squidtard and Squidtard Sports if you haven't already. We do this show every single Sunday, 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. At least that's what we're going to try to do from now on. So meet us again next week. We're going to go into a deeper dive about Week 7 and then also talk more in depth about Tennessee hosting the Fighting Jimbo Fishers and Texas A&M. That's going to be a fun matchup, and I'm very, very, very excited to cover that one. So one more question I have for you guys before we end the show. When we play Texas A&M, do you think when they do their stupid midnight yell thing that they're going to do, you think they'll talk about how Texas A&M is their Super Bowl?
I feel they probably will. I would probably think so. Their midnight yell thing. It's so cringe. Like
they have a bunch of weird traditions there. I'm not gonna go into them.
I'm honestly, there's a lot of people who joke that it's a cult, but honestly, it might actually be a cult.
It's like trying to watch a trash talk video without actually being online, and the trash talk ain't no good. That's pretty much the entirety of that.
Like when they was trash talking Appalachian State, the dude was like
I'm not allowed to say anything. I made a trash talk video on Austin P, but go on.
But yeah, when they was trash talking Appalachian State, they was calling them a hillbilly college, and that they had to look up online to see who they was really playing and everything, and saying they was deep in the Appalachian Mountains, saying that they didn't know where they was from and everything. And then Appalachian State comes out and just absolutely beats them.
Right. That's only funny because they lost.
Yeah.
I feel like that's kind of the whole story there, because I doubt anybody would be paying attention if Texas A&M did what they were supposed to last year and actually beat Appalachian State. That clip would not come up, but since they lost, and now they got to hear about it.
I hope when the midnight yell comes to Knoxville, because when it's on the road, of course they do it like in the town they're playing in. I hope when they do the midnight yell in Knoxville, I hope that the Vol fans show up and they just absolutely like the Vol fans show up and they just absolutely yell at them.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, let them know about it.
I know there was one fan base that tried to do it, and then they backed them away.
That's hilarious. Okie dokie, guys. Well, it's been a great show. A lot of great talk. We went for a good hour and 20 minutes, so we had a great show tonight. Is there any finalizing parting thoughts that either of you guys would like to say before we wrap things up here?
No, I can't think of anything. Do you have anything to say, Lucas?
All I gotta say is go Vols, and well, I'm not gonna say tighten up, but I guess I technically did, but
you can say it. You guys won today. It's very rare. It's going to be a very rare occurrence on the show. So go ahead.
Yeah. So yeah, tighten up, baby. We finally beat the Bengals. And also, Tennessee's home for the real 12th man, not Texas A&M.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Also, I'm disappointed my Cowboys finally woke up after their slumber last week against Arizona.
Yeah, and the Saints blow. So we're not gonna talk about that. We lost Derek Carr, so I knew that we were getting ready to lose to the Bucks. So no shocker there. I'm not. Yeah. I'm just glad the Vols won. That's all that matters. This is the Vol Star podcast, not the Depression podcast, and that's all it would be if we were talking about the Saints. So best we just move away from them. So again, thank you guys so much for watching. If you haven't already, make sure to check out these guys, Lucas Sharp and Juilo. Both of their handles for Twitter are in the description below. You can check them out, see what they're saying every day. They have a lot to talk about every single day, and you bet they'll have a lot to talk about during the game days. So make sure to check that out. And if you haven't already, subscribe to Squidtard and Squidtard Sports. I'm going to be releasing my pick'ems tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. I usually drop them on Tuesdays. I'll have my pick'ems out, give you guys an update on that. We'll talk about all of the games with the Power 5 teams. And then, of course, I would say that I dropped my hate video Thursday and Friday, but unless if I'm making a video, trash talking the bye week, I think I'm probably not going to be doing that.
Yeah, just go ahead and talk about how overrated the bye week.
Yeah. Should I do that? Should I make a hate video for bye week?
Talk about how overrated the bye week is.
Yeah, like do a message for bye week fans.
Talk about like the bye week is lazy and everything.
This is like you know what that's like? It's like when one time in my algebra class in high school, a couple of years ago, one of my friends told me you do a lot of you do a lot of live streams and you have a lot of homework to do for this class. So what you should do is you should do a live stream doing your homework. And I did exactly what he said. And I actually did the stream. I did it twice. On my main channel, I did a homework stream where I did my homework. And I did it for a good 2 hours before I got sick of it. So if I do a video on trash talking the bye week, that'll remind me a lot of that.
Did people actually watch that? Curious question.
Oh, no, a lot of people were in there. Yeah, that's what made that so great. YouTube is a weird anomaly, man. The algorithm has no rules. I do all this work, for this channel and for the hate videos and all of that, and they get like 100-something views at least, and then maybe 1,000 or something at most. And then I make a video about a friggin' metal pipe over on the main channel, 1.5 million, just casually 1.5 million. I don't get it.
It seems like the most popular videos on YouTube nowadays are like the AI generated U.S. president voices playing like video games.
Yeah.
You got to work with the algorithm, and I'll have plenty of time to do that. But first, I've got you go ahead, Julio.
I was gonna say there was a weird point a couple years ago in the YouTube algorithm where people kept getting recommended like Japanese pop songs from the 80s. I don't know if y'all remember that time or whatever. The Plastic Love. It's actually a great song, actually.
Yeah, no, I hear you on that. Well, all right. Well, everybody's going to bed in my house, so unfortunately, this is probably where I have to part for real. Somebody just knocked on my door. So actually, I sometimes forget that I do this at my house and not in a studio. I'm looking forward to the day that I actually have my own Squidtard studio. And while that day is probably very far away, until then, I will do it here right from my house. I've gotten several comments already. Why are you making a video from your mom's basement? So, yeah. We're already getting that going. All right.
Well, us college students can't afford a house right now.
Oh, yeah, right. You make a very good point there. Yes, sir says my first vid was him yelling at Tennessee over the loss versus Georgia State. Man, that seems like ages ago. That really does. All right, well, speaking of homework, I've got my own homework to do. It's due tonight at midnight, so I do not want to miss out on that. So thank you to everyone in the comment section. Thank you to all the people who joined: Janine Senti, Arter Wolf, Maddie Sims, Paul Warren, Vol for Life 16. Yes, sir. Fire in the Sky and the Mad Tea Sipper. Congratulations on being 5-0, by the way, Texas. All right, you guys, thank you so much for watching. Join us next week when we cover Texas A&M and, of course, Week 7 and talk about whatever in the world's going to happen this week. Thank you again to my two co-hosts, Lucas Sharp and Julio, for another phenomenal episode of the Vol Star Podcast. And until we see you all again, thank you guys so much for watching. Subscribe to Squidtard Sports. Make sure that you hit the bell icon so that you're notified every time I upload a video or do a podcast, whichever one that may be. And as always, thank you again for watching. We'll see you next time. And as always, power to Tardaria, and of course, go Vols!